What's up, guys? It's Book. March Madness has come to a close, and I've taken some time to look at how well my system predicted March Madness for an edge. Starting with the bracket, you guys already know that I got my championship pick for the tournament, so this is how my final bracket looks. On ESPN.com, my bracket ranked 585,175 out of over 22 million brackets submitted, which I guess puts me in the 97.8 percentile, so I'd say that's pretty decent performance. Of 63 games in March Madness, my system got 46 games correct for an accuracy of 73%. That's roughly where my system sits regarding performance, and I'm not sure I can do much to increase that given a lot of these games are just unpredictable. My system focuses solely on stats too, which means that I miss out on a lot of data that could be helpful, like players who are playing through injuries and other stressors that aren't fully present in the data. So I tried to do a little bit of visualization about my system's performance. This chart here shows the number of games I got correct for each level of confidence my system had. So you can see that for the most part, my system is generally good at predicting the outcomes of March Madness games, regardless of its confidence. However, there is a weird blip at about the 85% confidence mark. In this chart, you can see that the yellow line and the red line are spiking in the 85% confidence range. Yellow represents underdog games that my system didn't predict, and red represents my underdog predictions that didn't come through. In this confidence range, my system picked one incorrect underdog and missed 3, which really brought down the accuracy for that range of confidence. Given that upsets pay the most at the sportsbook, these are the games that you really want to hit. You can see that on the left, the orange line spikes higher than the red and the yellow. That orange line represents the underdog games that my system was able to predict, and those are the games that paid the most for me this year. You can see that the lower confidence gets, the higher the potential payout if you get it right. This is because you're more likely to get an upset, which pays more. On the contrary, if your confidence is high, you're more likely to pick the favorite, which means it pays out less, but you're also more likely to hit your pick. And you can see here that in the 85% confidence range, the potential payout spikes a bit, and that's because of the unusual number of upsets that happened in that confidence range for my system. This graph shows the payout for my system at each confidence range, and you can see that I just didn't perform well at 85% for some reason. So moving forward, there's a couple of notes I want to think about. First, I actually hit most of my underdogs on the lower end of my confidence. So in the near 50-50, like coin flip range, I actually made more money because I hit more of my upsets. In fact, I know this chart is super messy, but just try to ignore most of it and pay attention to these low spots on this line. This line represents my system's confidence, and each bar represents an underdog game. There are a couple of underdog games that I missed, but you can see here that there are a lot of underdog games that are within this range of 50 to 60% confidence. So in future iterations of this project, I might change my system's decisions at the 60% and below range to see if I can win big on more upsets. If I had structured my system like this year, I would have won 2 more upset games. I would have also lost 2 games that weren't upsets, but because upsets pay out more than the favorites, I would have actually won an additional 0.7 betting units for my troubles. The other thing to note from this graph is that I should probably increase the number of bets I'm making in the 95% confidence range, as that is one high confidence area where more bets would have helped my system perform, especially on the betting side. But even with some places for improvement, my betting strategy worked, as the way I mitigated risk kept my returns above what they would have been if I had bet on every game, even if I got more games right. So I'll have to look into some ways to fine-tune this mitigation, which I'll discuss later in this video, but I'm really happy with my system's performance overall. Of the 63 total games of March Madness, my system had a confidence high enough to bet on 37 of them, or 58% of the games. And of those 37 games, 23 or 67% of the predictions were correct. This performance gave me a return of $9.35, or 1.87 betting units. That means that if you had been using my system with a $100 betting unit for March Madness, you would have won 187 total this year using my system. So I've spent some time analyzing and thinking about how I could improve the system. I started to do a little research and to do some back testing, and I came across a pretty interesting conversation on the internet. There are some people who have been using the strategy of simply betting the underdog throughout the entire tournament. I guess in the past few years, folks have been having success with this strategy. Well, I ran the numbers, and with the data from my system this year, it looks like you wouldn't have had success if you tried this system this year. That's just because of how underdogs and favorites pay out. You can see here that picking the favorite for every game is not profitable at any point in the tournament, but there are two big spikes for picking the underdog in the tournament. If you had bet on every underdog in the first and the Sweet 16 round, you would have actually been up over 10 betting units, or over $1,000 for a $100 betting unit. I'm currently working on the historic moneyline data for March Madness to see if this trend holds up over the past few years, but it seems like there's a potential mitigation strategy here, maybe an optimization strategy where you could bet on underdogs for rounds with a high number of upsets and then switch to something with an edge like my system in the later rounds when that number of upsets comes back down. The thinking behind this kind of strategy is that my system's confidence doesn't really change that much, but the average payout changes a lot depending on if you're betting on favorites or underdogs. So I'll have to look into some accurate historical data to see if a strategy like this could work in the future. My system has always been really favorite heavy, so looking at this chart from a past iteration of the project, it doesn't look like the distribution of accuracy that my system had this season is a common trend over seasons of historical March Madness, so I'll need to do more research before I find anything conclusive. But that's going to be it for this video. This was a fun project. It was a lot of work, and I'm feeling pretty excited about the prospect of doing it again this next year. I think I'll want to iterate on it. Definitely the things I've learned from this round of March Madness. Do that a couple times before next season and see if I come up with anything interesting. So I might post a video or two between now and then. But as always, thanks for checking out my video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one.